Hello, happy Wednesday. I know that it's a little bit earlier than when we normally have our chat, so I hope this time works for you. And if it does, let me know in the comments if you like this time better than later in the evening. Because if you do, we can try to switch it around. My schedule is a little bit different today, so I was able to have this live talk in the middle of the day. Hey, Megan. Instead of in the end of the day. So that being said, if you feel like this is a better time for you, just let me know and I'll try to make it work. So I hope everybody is having a fabulous day, a good week so far. You're feeling energized. Spring is in the air, although it was like 90 degrees here this past weekend. And then yesterday it was like 55 and raining. So who knows what's happening. But anyway, we are talking about what makes a meal satisfying. And I think that this is a really important topic because having a satisfying meal goes beyond just feeling full, right? You can feel full, but maybe it wasn't very satisfying. And so we want to be able to look at, identify, and replicate what makes a meal most satisfying to you. So before we jump in, I want to go on to Tuesday's discussion question and see what you all had to say about it. We had a lot of really awesome comments. So let's see. Brenda says carbs and fat, ... fullness and salt. Okay, so looks like flavor or that saltiness, that is something that helps you feel satisfied from the meal. And you also mentioned fullness, so I think that's important too. It's a component of it. You want your meal to be satisfying, but also filling. Betsy says the taste and the density of the food. Okay, so taste makes sense. Density, like maybe how it feels in your stomach, how it sits in there. And that's going to be something that we talk about in a little bit when I give you my thoughts. Rochelle says texture and taste. The texture of food makes me gag. Hopefully not the texture of all food, but maybe specific foods makes you gag. But that's really important too, because some textures, if we think about like crunchy or smooth, or in maybe the ones that make you gag are more like goopy, I don't know. So that's an important piece too, is the texture. Danny says fullness, which is a common theme. Natalie is also big on texture. She also likes hot, not warm. So temperature is another piece of what makes meals satisfying that we want to talk through as well. And then Carrie says, for me, it's a hot, savory meal. So there's flavor and temperature. And then Joanna says all of the above. And then we also have, oh gosh, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm so sorry. Maybe Victoria. I'm sure I messed that up, so I'm so sorry. But she says preparation and result on the plate, the cooking process. So I love that. That's actually really a great point, that when you enjoy the process and you put love and you put care into the meal, it makes it more satisfying. So I think that's really important. So let's talk through some of the things that make a meal satisfying. And it varies person to person. So that's why I wanted to get y'all's opinion about it, because what one person likes or that makes it satisfying for them is going to be different than what makes a meal satisfying for somebody else. So, and it also varies meal to meal, right? So like maybe for you, a hot, savory dinner is going to be satisfying, but a cold, smooth dessert is going to be satisfying. So we need to identify what meal we are specifically looking at. But regardless, when we're thinking about a satisfying meal, let's take a look at the macronutrients really quickly. So we've got our 3 macronutrients: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So out of the 3, carbohydrates are for energy. So we want to have some carbohydrates with our meal to get that energy boost. Protein is what helps make the meal satisfying. Fats also take a while for your body to break down and to digest. So in order to make a meal satisfying and last you through to the next meal, we want to make sure that you aren't eating carbs alone. We want to pair those carbohydrates with some protein or some fat, okay? Because like I said, that's where you get the energy boost from the carbs, but it actually is satisfying and helps maintain that energy for longer by having one of those macronutrients that takes longer to digest and break down, like protein or fat. And whenever I talk with my clients about making a satisfying snack or a satisfying meal, we are always working on how to pair some protein along with those carbohydrates. So in terms of meal composition, that's what we want to be thinking about with our macronutrients. Now, that brings us down to texture, right? So if we're thinking about, let's just use snacks as an example. And let's say you have in your mind, okay, I'm going to have a healthy snack with me, and maybe you bring a banana and a string cheese. So you know it's balanced, right? It's going to be satisfying because of the macronutrient balance. But if you're somebody that normally goes to chips because you like the crunchy and you like the savory, doing something that's more mushy and sweet probably isn't going to satisfy you in the same way. So I like to say, okay, let's look at the food that you're looking to replace, but how can we mimic that texture and maybe that temperature in order to make it satisfy in a similar way? So for example, if you're using chips as the example, maybe you do carrot sticks and hummus because you're still getting it savory and it's crunchy. Right? You see how that happens? Or if it's, breakfast and you are normally, maybe we'll say like something like pancakes, just plain old pancakes with syrup and whatnot. So that's hot and it's sweet. So if you try to go from something hot and sweet to maybe, I don't know, we can say like eggs, it's still hot, but it's savory, maybe you won't feel as satisfied. So instead, maybe we want to look at making oatmeal with some protein in there where it's still sweet, but you're getting hot and sweet. Does that make sense? So thinking about the different things that we can do to make, hey Brenda, to make the texture and the temperature match what the foods is that you're trying to replicate or replace. So Brenda asks, are dried bananas too sugary? So the thing with dried bananas is that most dried bananas are actually deep fried. So I would highly recommend looking at the nutrition facts label of whatever dried bananas you can find. And if it is truly just bananas, then awesome. Those are a great choice. But we just want to make sure that they're not fried so they don't have any extra oil or extra sugar. Actually, let me pull up banana chips, right? I'm just pulling it up on my computer really quick to see the nutrition facts of this one. So this one is just like the normal banana chips that I wonder if I can flip it around. I don't want to really mess it up, but here we go. Okay, so here's the banana chips, something like this. And then we go here to the nutrition facts. Oh, here we go with the ingredients. Bananas, coconut oil, sugar, and banana flavor. And so you can see that it actually has 9 grams of fat and 1 gram of added sugar. That's not a lot of added sugar, so that's pretty good. But that just goes to show bananas don't have any fat in them normally. So we just want to make sure that you're choosing maybe just plain dried, or even if you have a dehydrator, you could do that, or you can make it in the oven. I'm not sure exactly on the temperature and the time, but I'm sure online has many options. You could slice them yourself and put them on a cookie sheet and actually dry them yourself. So that could be something to try. It's pretty intensive, but if you've got the time, you can do that. So let's just loop back around. Meal composition or macronutrient composition to make it more satisfying, matching the texture, the taste, like sweet or savory, the temperature, and the texture to match a food, or to identify that I feel most satisfied when I have a hot, savory meal. Then you want to recreate those to make it hot and savory. Now, bringing it back over to the fullness component, being able to feel full is so, so important. And this is something I talk about all the time, because here's the thing. If you're trying to lose weight, the last thing that I want you to be feeling is hungry and deprived. Because what happens when you feel like that is that you're more likely to be thinking about food more often, and you're more likely to maybe make a poorer choice. So instead of feeling hungry and deprived, I want you to be feeling full and satisfied and not thinking about food. So what that means is we need to be eating for volume. So pairing this eating for volume along with our macronutrient balance, it means that we want to be eating lots of non-starchy vegetables, because non-starchy vegetables, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, oftentimes we think of vegetables as being, we got to eat vegetables because they're healthy for us, right? Does anybody feel like that? Let me know in the comments if you have kind of felt like, I have to eat vegetables because they're healthy for me. And that's kind of the mindset. Well, I encourage you to think about vegetables as a tool that you can leverage to eat a big volume of food with it not being very high calorie at all. Because if you think about a big plate of broccoli, let's say 2 cups of broccoli. I don't want to misspeak, but 2 cups of broccoli, because I don't know off the top of my head how many calories are in broccoli, but Google does. So a plate of 2 cups of broccoli has about 100 calories. So if you think about how much 2 cups of broccoli is and how full you would feel on that, and if something that helps you feel satisfied from a meal is feeling full, then why not leverage that, right? So filling your plate up with lots of non-starchy vegetables so you can feel full, but still making sure you have some of those other macronutrients, protein or healthy fats, in order to make that more satisfying and to last, that fullness to actually last through to the next meal. The reason why this works is because non-starchy vegetables are high in fiber and they're high in water. So number one, high in water means it's going to be a lot of water in there and it's not very high calories. And number 2, with the fiber, that means it takes a while for your body to break it down and to digest it. So if your body is working to break down all that broccoli, might take a couple hours for it to get all through it. And that's a good thing to make the meal satisfying. So next time you are trying to figure out how to make a snack more satisfying or make a meal more satisfying, I want you to think of, number 1, balancing your macronutrients. Number 2, identifying the textures, the tastes, and the temperature. Oh, the 3 T's, texture, taste, and temperature, that you find the most appealing and replicate that. And then the other one is eating for volume, to make sure that you can eat a bigger portion and feel nice and full and filled up and satisfied, right? This was good. Short and sweet and to the point. I don't want to waste your time. I know you're busy. I know I'm busy, but that doesn't mean that this isn't valuable. So I really hope that this was helpful for you. If it was, I'd love to hear it. And if there's a topic that you would love to hear about next week, let me know. I want to give you what you want and what you need. And so you need to tell me what that is. So Megan says, what are some of your favorite my favorite non-starchy vegetables? Ooh, Great question. So, it's kind of funny. I think for me, non-starchy vegetables, if I think about like broccoli or zucchini, the thought, or cauliflower, the thought of eating these raw, like I can't even stand it. Like I just don't like them raw. But I love them cooked, whether it's roasted or air fried, not steamed, because that's not enough flavor and caramelization for me. But what that goes to show is that you need to identify what ones you like and if it's the way it is prepared. So if you think, like I used to think, I don't like zucchinis, but that's because I only used to try to eat them raw and I didn't like that. But once I started preparing them in a way I did like, it made me enjoy them more. So just kind of rattling some up. I love Brussels sprouts in both the air fryer and roasted. I think they're delicious. I love asparagus and green beans, both also good in the air fryer, but they also work really well on a sheet pan meal, like when you put your fish or chicken on one side, your veggies, and maybe some potatoes or sweet potatoes on the other side. That's like super easy, super delicious, balanced, nutritious meal. That's a good go-to dinner. Broccoli, of course. I have to say I don't cook a lot of cauliflower. I have been getting those bags of riced cauliflower, which love a well put together sheet pan meal. You, a woman after my heart. So those bags of riced cauliflower have been making their way more into my meals lately. I have a couple recipes with them on my Instagram if you haven't seen that already. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, it's Zoë Schroeder Nutrition, which I'm sure you can find somewhere in the description. But that being said, that's a really great addition just to add more volume to a dish. So like, for example, I made this black bean ground chicken salsa mixture, but I put in the riced cauliflower and pretty soon it turned into a much higher volume, more satisfying, more filling meal. So that's that. I eat a lot of bell peppers. I always have spinach on hand and tomatoes, little cherry tomatoes, because I find that those are easier for me to use. Instead of getting like a big tomato, I don't know, I like the cherry tomatoes better. It's just like more accessible for me, I think. Let's see. I think those are the big ones. What are some of your favorite ones? And think about, like I was saying before, if you do have a vegetable that you either like a lot or even you don't like a lot, try to play around with the different preparations and the different cooking methods. Because like I said at the beginning, and like what one of the comments were, when you put pride and love and energy, oh yeah, Brenda, spaghetti squash, that's a big one. I love spaghetti squash too. Good call. When you are putting energy and time and love into the meals that you're making, it makes them more satisfying. And when you get excited about what you're making, if you found a really cool recipe and you are jazzed up and excited to make it, it makes you jazzed up and excited to eat it, which is gonna make it more satisfying and a more enjoyable experience overall. So on that note, I think I'll wrap up. But I hope you have a great rest of your day. Spinach, yep, perfect. We got the S's. So remember, balanced macronutrients, the 3 T's, and eating for volume. Let me know what you need from me. How can I help you? And I'll see you inside the group.